I bought that little patch of desert for my mom, so she'd have a place to sleep easy and watch the sun go down. I didn't expect to buy a battlefield at the same time. Let me back up a sec. My name's Hunter Mason. I built things for a living, I served in the Marines, and then I ran a construction company. I know how to do things properly, get permits, pay taxes, keep your paperwork straight. And yet here I was, dragged into the most ridiculous fight of my life with a greedy HOA, a shadowy board, and a woman who thought a clipboard was a crown. That 2-acre lot, picture it, dust, a few mesquite bushes, a half-collapsed barn, and a mountain view so wide it makes you feel like you're the last man on earth. I bought it at a county auction. Clean deed, clean title, 0 HOA strings attached. I planned to build a simple one-story steel frame house for my mom, wide doorway so she could get around, a porch that faces the sunset, something plain, warm, and honest she deserved. Everything went smooth at first. Permits filed, fees paid, foundation poured, framing up, and then, one afternoon, a white SUV rolled onto the job site like it owned the horizon. Out stepped a woman in a gray blazer with that special brand of self-importance you only see in HOA presidents. "Mr. Mason," she said, like she was announcing territory, "I'm Laura Crooks, property manager of Silver Bluffs HOA. We need to discuss your construction project." I set the rebar down slow, sweat on my brow, and said, "You've got the wrong lot. This land's outside your development. I filed with the county, not you." Her smile didn't move. It was tight, like a trap, and she started talking about visual harmony, as if my mom's roofline might offend their golf carts. I laughed. They called the county. A building inspector showed up, looked through my folder, nodded, and left. All good, I thought. But that quiet that follows? It's the kind of quiet that means trouble's brewing. 2 days later, my concrete truck didn't show, and the supplier told me the access road was blocked. I drove out and found a brand new gate across the county road, HOA seal stenciled in gold, 2 security guards standing like they were running a desert checkpoint. I filmed the whole thing, called the sheriff. Deputy Ramirez rolled up, checked the county maps, and said, "You don't have authorization for this." Laura arrived in her silver Lexus, blazer as crisp as ever, and tried to finesse her way out. "We've petitioned the county," she said. "Ramirez didn't buy it, called a crew, and the gate was down within an hour." For a moment I thought maybe that would be the end. But the thing about people like Laura is when they lose a skirmish, they double down. Then the petty sabotage started. Nails spread across the driveway, deliveries spooked off with threats, phone calls warning drivers not to cross the private road. They were cutting off my supply lines. I added motion lights, more trail cams, and started catching that familiar white SUV rolling through the night. Slow, no headlights, people snapping photos of my property line. It moved from nuisance to deliberate harassment, and by sunrise I was done pretending it was random. It got stranger. One day 2 sheriff cruisers pulled up, lights on, and right behind them came Laura, manila folder in hand, striding like she ran the county. "We received a call about illegal construction. An officer told me, 'We need you to vacate the site until ownership is verified.'" I didn't lose my cool. I pulled out my folder, deeds, certified parcel maps, drone photos with timestamps, everything. The deputies checked, came back, and said, "All clear. This land belongs to Mr. Mason, no HOA jurisdiction." Laura walked away muttering threats about making an enemy. That's when pieces started to line up. I got a call from Charles Denton, an old farmer who'd sold land near Silver Bluffs years ago after similar pressure. Forged paperwork, bogus inspections, anonymous complaints that make you sell cheap. He recognized Laura in a photo and said, "She's the one." Then a retired surveyor, James Proctor, reached out. He'd been hired once to verify boundaries for developers and quit when he saw maps being altered after the fact. He gave me copies of his old logs and some redrawn plats. Suddenly the story looked bigger than one cranky HOA president. There was a twist I didn't expect. A local developer, Westgard Holdings, kept showing up in ribbon-cutting photos alongside Laura, smiling, shaking hands, cameras flashing. That explained a lot. The HOA didn't just want aesthetic harmony. This was a coordinated push to make land available for development, and the tactics were classic. Make life impossible, make the owner sell, then swoop in. It was ugly, organized, and the money trail made it worse. So I started collecting evidence like a man building a case rather than a wall. Camera footage, IP logs from anonymous online complaints, voicemail threats, timestamps, license plates. Mariel, my lawyer, turned the pile of files into artillery. She served cease and desist, compiled public records requests, and we handed stacks to Stephen Brooks, an old journalist friend who loves a good scrappy story. Once the press started poking, people came forward. Former neighbors with similar stories, anonymous complaints traced back to the same subnet, and internal emails that suggested a playbook. We found a storage unit belonging to an ex-board member who'd resigned in disgust. Inside, thumb drives with email threads between Laura and a Westgard rep, language about creating perimeter influence, and drafting fake documents to make land look blighted so they could reclaim it. One line was chilling. If we can get him to abandon the build, we can write it off as blight and file a community reclamation request. That was their plan, not just pressure, but an attempted legal steal. Once the prosecutor saw the emails, IP traces, and the pattern of harassment, things moved fast. The county issued subpoenas, froze HOA accounts used in questionable transfers, and the illegal gate I'd filmed got torn down at dawn by an authorized crew. Not by me with a truck, but by the weight of law. The civil court hearing played out with drone footage, parcel maps, and the storage unit emails laid out like evidence in a crime show. The judge didn't hide her disgust. Silver Bluffs was found liable for obstruction, trespass, interference, and malicious abuse of the complaint system. Damages were awarded, their encroachments ordered removed, and the county recorded my parcel as officially independent of any HOA. Criminal charges followed for Laura: wire fraud, filing false complaints, attempted seizure of private property. She didn't walk away. The arrest made the morning news, vans and camera lights at the community center, board members cuffed. One of them even tried to run and ended up tackled on the lawn. Poetic in a grim suburban way. She was indicted, bail denied for the risk of further obstruction, and later handed down a sentence. I won't pretend I partied. I bought a new DeWalt set and the crew grilled on the slab, small rewards but sweet. 6 months later the house was done. 2 bedrooms, wide doors, a wraparound porch, windows that drink the sunset. My mom cried when she saw it. She moved in the next day and slept through the night for the first time in years, and that alone made every headache worth it. I planted a sign at the drive. This land is not subject to your fantasies. This land is mine. People laughed, took pictures, some folks reached out with their own stories, strangers who'd lost property to similar games. A class action followed, built on the documents we'd gathered. I'm not a hero, just a guy who doesn't like being pushed off his own land. But if the neighbors ever come knocking with another clipboard tyrant, I'm not stepping back. We took down a gate with a county order, we exposed a scheme, and my mom has a porch to sit on. That's the satisfying part, watching a small, cheap power trip dismantle itself under the weight of evidence, community, and a little stubbornness. But here's the question I want you to chew on. When a group claims they act for the community, who gets to define that community? The people who actually live there, with messy yards and barking dogs, or the few with clipboards, legalese, and developer ties who decide whose life is worth protecting? If you've ever had a Laura Crooks in your life, tell me about it. Or if you think the laws need tightening to keep neighborhoods from becoming weapons, say so. Drop your experience in the comments. Hit like if you think homeowners deserve protection, and share this with someone dealing with HOA pressure, because sometimes one voice is all it takes to turn a story into a movement.